Welcome to a Best of Missouri Hands Visiting Artist interview of Cynthia Borum. I'm Nina Schatzkamer Miller, coordinator of the Visiting Artist Program. Cynthia is a juried mixed media 2D artist. Juried artists are artisans who have developed their craft beyond mere competence of technique to a high standard of quality. Part of the Best of Missouri Hands mission is education. We ask juried members to participate in educational endeavors, such as our Visiting Artist Program. This program sends juried artists into schools or senior centers for presentations. When in-person visits aren't feasible, facilities can arrange for Zoom presentations. Artists show samples of their work and talk about their process. Sometimes they bring a project for participants to complete. This video interview is similar to what an artist might discuss in a presentation. To learn more about visiting artists, please visit our website, bestofmissourihands.org. Welcome, Cynthia. Can you tell me about your art?
Yes. My artwork is hugely abstract backgrounds that I put more realism over the top. And I typically start with acrylics and use a lot of different medias, markers, inks, sometimes alcohol inks, and collage. And then when I'm finished with all of that, I'll go in and put what is probably the main focus of the artwork over the top. Sometimes I'll start that in acrylic, sometimes I do it completely in oil. And I finish all my artwork with oil.
Can you show us some samples?
Sure, yeah. I brought with me today this piece of art that I finished for a fundraiser that we did recently. And then I started another piece so that you could see kind of the background, kind of see what it looks like before we get to the finished product. And you can see there's a lot of mark making in here. These are all acrylics, and then I started laying in the oils. And then this is the finished product.
Would you show us how you apply your materials to that art?
Absolutely. So once you go, this is really important, once you put oil on your canvas or whatever you're working on, you absolutely cannot go back to acrylics. So I've already laid oils down, so I have to continue with oils. I can use mediums appropriate for oil products, but nothing related to acrylics at this point. So let's just pick a brush. I started working on this big sunflower here at the top. And you can see what I've done is these are all cool colors. Even though it's yellow and orange, they're cool colors. And so these are going to push back into the painting. This is cool, so it's kind of, you can see how it makes it look kind of sunk in, kind of gives it dimension and depth. And so what I'm going to start doing now is putting some warm colors on top of it. So this is a yellow ochre. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. I use multiple brushes so that my petals never all look exactly the same when I'm painting flowers. But I will go in and I will start here and I will pull it down. Here's another one. And I'll pull it down. And you can see I don't use just a straight stroke. I like for my flowers to have life and movement to them. So rather than just being, I don't want them to look cartoony. So rather than being very rigid, I like to have movement when I'm painting. So let's add a little bit of orange so that you can maybe see on top of that. How that kind of starts building the sunflower. Well, this is very cool again. And see how that yellow starts popping out in front of the cool colors? So when you're painting with oils, cool colors recede, warm colors come forward. Acrylics don't really do that. Oils move because of the pigment that's in them coming from the ground. It's all very natural and it has a natural movement to it. And so that's one of the things that I love about oil paints. Now I can go through and I can it's already starting to look more like a sunflower. Yeah.
Is there any science used in your artwork? Temperatures or raw materials, how the materials are made if they're unusual?
I buy all of my pigments. There are people who make pigments themselves from the soil. I don't do that. I buy all my oil paints, but the temperature is hugely important. That's why when I go back in here, if I put something in the background, it'll be cool back here. Anything that I want to come forward is going to be warm. And I'll give you a good hint too. Something you can do with your oil paints. I don't know if you can see this or not, but I have marked a WO on top of this. This means it's a warm color and it's an opaque. So I don't have to think about it when I'm grabbing tubes or I'm in the middle of something. Because when you're painting, a lot of times you'll get into your right brain. Your left brain hopefully will go away while you're painting for the most part. And you'll start just using the right part of your brain, which is the creative part. And you don't want to have to stop and think a lot. So if you already have these clearly marked, that's a huge help. Also, when I set up my palette, I always set my palette up so that my warms are near me and my cools are away from me. Again, so that I know the difference. And when you mix warm and cool, you'll get a neutral color. So if you want something that's kind of in the middle, mix a warm with a cool. If you want it to come forward, use warm. If you want it to recede, use cool with your oil paints. That I brought with me today to finish. I won't be finishing it because it's got a lot of work left on it, but just give you a little more of you can see this is the warm yellow that's coming out on top of the cools. See how that brings it forward? It's a little harder for me to paint from the side. Sometimes you need to let your paints dry. Too much on there. Sometimes get a little When you look at flowers in particular, a flower will look like it's yellow, or it'll look like it's orange, or it'll look like it's red. But it's actually a combination of multiple colors that actually create the beauty within the flower. So you want to try to look at the flower and see all the different shades, all the different colors that are there.
Do you ever paint from real flowers, or do you use photos?
Do all the above.
Okay.
I do, and I actually have some really good artificial flowers. Expensive artificial flowers. Well, I think they're expensive, but artificial flowers that I've bought that I can look at, because some of them are really quite good. Especially in the wintertime when you don't have as many beautiful flowers available, because it gets kind of expensive to go to the florist and get flowers all the time. And then let's see, I'll bring a petal, let me show you how to bring a petal forward a little bit. We're starting to work on this one. So if I want, like this sunflower is more open, it kind of looks like it's slanting back just a tiny little bit. Can you see that? This one is going to go up this way. And so there's a few petals that I want to come forward. And the way you do that is you just bring it down. And now you can see the movement of this flower is going to go up compared to this flower that's more open. from there.
How do you go from an idea to choosing the materials to creating to finishing?
Yeah, so a lot of times when I start a painting, I'm not actually sure what I'm going to paint as far as the finished product. A lot of times I'll just start on the abstract background and see what it speaks to me. I have a artist that I took some private lessons from, amazing person, and he likes to say, play like a child. And so if I don't really know what I want to paint, but I know that I want to do something, I want to create, I'll go in and I'll start with the abstract background and I'll just start playing. It's important, however, to know what colors you can mix together. Know your complementary colors. Get out your color wheel. Don't mix opposites. Don't mix your yellows and your purples, or you're going to end up with kind of a brownish gray. So you've got to know what colors you can mix, so utilize the tools that you have that you can use, but start putting them together, and then when you're doing acrylics, let it dry before you move on. That's how you can help prevent that muddy look when you're doing acrylics.
Where do you find your inspiration?
Gosh, I find it all over. This piece of art, I don't know if you can see this one up in the corner. That big moth that's on top of that painting landed on the concrete in front of our home. And it was just like a gift, and it was so beautiful. So I'm like, I have to paint that. So then I'm like, okay, I'm going to paint that moth, but what am I going to put with it?
Did you take a picture of it?
I did. I took a picture of it, and that moth is only about 1/4 of an inch bigger than the actual moth that was on my concrete. So that was inspired by that. Hummingbird, I love hummingbirds. I had done another hummingbird painting for my mom, and she loved it. And I wanted to do something that is not your typical hummingbird painting. So that's where that one came from. This one up here, this is Love in Any Language. And to me, flowers speak the language of love. And it was around the springtime when the flowers are blooming and all of nature's in love in spring. And so I chose a lot of different roses because we're all different people. We all love different ways. There's all different types of love. And that's why you see a bouquet of all different colors, all different flowers put into the same painting.
And what's that painting called again?
Love in Any Language.
I like that.
Yeah. So it just kind of depends on my mood. I love birds. I love flowers, and so the two of those are the majority of what I paint, but I do occasionally venture out into something a little different. Yeah.
How did you get started in this kind of art?
Well, my husband was going to start painting. My husband is a wonderful guitar builder. He makes these beautiful guitars, and his daughter's a professional artist in Norman, Oklahoma. And we were down visiting her, and he told her he wanted to start painting. And she's like, okay. So she sent him some brushes and a few paints home. We come back to St. Charles, and he buys the things to kind of set up a little art studio, and he doesn't paint. And I kept saying, when are you going to start painting? Oh, I don't know. I kept bugging him. So finally he sat down and tried to paint. He didn't enjoy it, said it was too hard. And I said, well, do you care if I try? He goes, knock yourself out. So I did, and it wasn't very pretty. It was pretty ugly to start with, but I liked it. When I put that brush into that paint and put it on the paper, I felt like I could do something beautiful eventually. And so I kept working very hard to create a style that I really enjoy.
Was there something in particular that attracted you to this medium, or was it just the fact that you had those paints available?
I love oil painting. I've always loved oil painting. I think it's beautiful. I think it has this this luscious, juicy appearance to it that for me nothing else compares to. There are a lot of people who do beautiful watercolors and beautiful acrylics, and I love them and I admire them, but for me personally, what I want to create involves oil paint.
How has your art changed over time?
I've gotten better. I've gotten better. I can now paint a flower that actually looks like a flower. It doesn't take me 2 weeks to complete a painting like it used to. Now sometimes it will if I have to let it dry, but it used to take me days all day long of 2 weeks to create a piece of art. So yeah.
So how do you stay interested and motivated?
playing like a child, creating. Looking at other people's art keeps me motivated. Even if it's not the type of art that I create, I think that to have art in your home and in your surroundings creates light and life in a way that nothing else does. And so I get to come here to this art gallery where my artwork is, and I also get to view all the other artists' work. And sometimes I see something that they've done. Maybe it's a color, maybe it's a shading. It's totally different, but it inspires me. I also, to be honest, get on YouTube a lot and look at other artists and what they're doing, what they're creating.
How do you show and sell your work?
My work is at Missouri Artists on Main here in St. Charles. That's the main place where I have my artwork right now. It can be seen here. I'm a resident artist, and it's available at Missouri Artists on Main.
And what do collectors of your art say about it?
The people that I get to talk to love the color. They're drawn to the color. And also they're drawn to the fact that I use it in such a way that is unique and different from most of the artists that they're familiar with, and the subject matter that I paint.
How do you define success as an artist?
I think success as an artist is when you create something that you put your soul into, your DNA into, and someone else sees it and loves it. And it's validated when someone wants to buy it. But I recognize that not everyone can buy a piece of art. And so one of the fun things about being up here on some days is when people come in and they tell you what they see in it and how it moves them, what it does to them. That gives me a lot of satisfaction.
What's the best part of being an artist?
Being able to put yourself into a piece of art and having someone see that and know what it was you were trying to create, that someone sees the passion, the emotion, the feeling that you put into it.
And what's the worst part?
The worst part is when you have a disaster and it just won't turn out, and you have one of those ugly paintings that you look at it and you go, I don't know what to do with this, and you just have to put it aside and walk away from it. I think that's the worst part.
I think you had another career before you became an artist.
I did.
What was your other career?
I was a registered nurse for 40 years and retired a year ago in January. Yeah.
And would you say that now art is your career?
I would say that now art is one of my joys, yes. I'm retired and I don't depend on my artwork, but I love to share my artwork, and I love to have the opportunity to share it with others, and to know that someone takes it and puts it in their home, in their surroundings, gives me a real sense of satisfaction.
Would you have one piece of advice for aspiring artists?
Yes. Practice. Paint, 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 paint. Yeah.
How has Best of Missouri Hands helped you as an artist?
Best of Missouri Hands was a challenge that I saw it as a challenge. Becoming a resident artist here at Missouri Artists on Main was my first challenge. I worked really hard to get my artwork up to a standard that would be accepted into the gallery here, because you have to be juried into this gallery. And then my next goal was to take it to the next level, and I felt that Best of Missouri Hands was the next level, and I wanted to have that recognition. I wanted my work to be acknowledged, that it was of excellence.
Do you have a website?
Not currently, but I'm working on it.
Instagram?
I do.
What's your do you know your Instagram handle?
Cynthia _Borum_art.
Are you on Facebook?
I am on Facebook, but not under my art page.
When you're not creating art, what other things do you like to do?
Oh, spend time with my husband, my family, my friends. Music has always been a big part of my life, and so I really enjoy music. In fact, most of the time when I'm painting, I'm listening to music, and you will not recognize it, but a lot of my mark making is based off the music that I'm listening to at the time that I'm painting. So music is huge for me. I also incorporate a lot of music into my pieces. I'll collage it in, and you can see it within the artwork itself. This piece here, I don't have the original because I painted it for my son, but if you can see it, I actually have collaged music into the neck of the guitar here and here. So, yeah. I also want to invite you, if you are close to St. Charles, Missouri, and would be interested in learning my style of painting. I'm starting a class in July, every week in July, on Tuesday evening from 6 to 8:30. We'll start with all the basics. You'll learn a lot about temperature, how to create the backgrounds, how to collage, and then if you choose to, we'll teach you how to do the oil paint over the top. And you can register for those classes by going through Missouri Artists on Main in St. Charles, Missouri, through their email, or you can contact the art gallery directly. Thanks.
Cynthia. And I'd also like to thank Missouri Artists on Main in St. Charles for letting us film in the gallery.
Yeah. Thank you.